Hello and welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to continue our topic of making decisions or decision making in our Java application. We talked about in the previous video this if statement here. We kind of went through the different building blocks of the if. I'll kind of give you a quick rundown again. The if with if you wanted to make a single selection, or more of a, I guess, single. But so the if, you got the if statement or the if else statement, and that was just kind of if, and then your condition, the else right here, right? I'm just gonna actually give it a quick comment block just to kind of comment it out for you here. You have the if, and that's kind of just one or the other, kind of a two option selection, or selector, I guess you could say. I don't know, I'm not really sure of what terminology, but it's kind of just two options available to you here. And then we have the next version of this, which would be the the if dot else if dot else. And this one's kind of for more multiple selections when it comes down to trying to make a bit more of a program flow. And there's kind of the basics of your two. You got the if statement, which is the if else, which there's a condition required here, and then we'll just copy that. We'll just put a condition required here and as well as here. So if the condition goes true, we can kind of if condition is true, we'll go inside of this statement, and if condition is false, we go inside of the else statement. Whereas this kind of gives us a little bit more option if this condition is true. If this condition is true, or if the upper condition is true, we come into this block. Same thing here. If now if this is false, then we kind of can check again from another selection, or like another option that we have available. We can kind of come down into here to do this code, and if both of these are false, then we can finish our else statement. So that's kind of our a multiple selection, or use of this multiple selector. All right, so that's kind of what we did with the program earlier. We went through and I can just, if you want to write that down, you can. I can leave it there for a second. You can pause the video and just give yourself a little, oh wow, I'm going crazy with this mouse. You can kind of just print that out. So what we want to do now is I just want to go and we'll build this up a little bit more, just to show you a little bit more functionality, or like nested ifs, how that kind of works. Kind of explain this else if a little bit to you on why it's there and how that works, just to kind of give you a little better understanding of what's going on here. So we'll just come up here, and I'm going to create another byte variable, and we're going to call it select, and we'll just make it equal to 0 for now. And this is all part of this same logic. We ask for a overall grade from a user, and then we get this input from the user, and we do this as we go through, right? Once we have the input, we check upon the number, make sure it's within range. And in this program, actually, this extra is kind of redundant. It wouldn't hurt you not to have this here, but I was just trying to show you the different Boolean operators and how to use them with our comparison operators. So again, you don't truly need these. It's kind of overkill for the program, but just to show you how to kind of piece them together and when they were used. is more what my logic was for this. So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna add a little bit of functionality to this program that we've built, and we're just gonna go in and we'll make a little menu for the user. I'm gonna kind of show you, try to outline a little bit of a little more functionality that can be added. Fairly simple with these if statements, all right? So I'll just call it, I don't know, we'll put a little prompt of menu. I'm gonna just copy this, bring it down. We'll make, make our first part of the menu, we'll say get grade. And then we'll just do a second option. I'm not gonna go too far with it. I mean, you can continue on making a bunch of different ones if you want to continue like building upon this yourself and play around with it. But for now, we're just going to go with get grade and exit. Really not too important at this point. Just again for more educational and showing you, different elements of the if statement. So we'll just say here, enter your selection, enter your menu item, however you wish to, word it. And then we're going to get, we need to store the selection of the user. We'll store that in the variable select. We already have an input value from the last video. We'll just get the next byte. So now we're printing out a menu. We're looking to get the user to give us, a selection of 1 to kind of move on to do this programming right here, or this chunk of code. And then if they if they don't want to, they can push 2 and they can exit. So it's kind of a little bit more application like. So what we can do is here we'll just set up our if statement, and this is kind of the select equal to 1. Now in this form, select is equal to 1. Well, there's only 2 options here, so we could truly just use this else statement here as our our other option. So if they say 2, then we can just go here and give them a system.out.print line and just say thanks for using the program. Okay, so just give them a kind of that's our 2 selection, because if it's not equal to 1, then it kind of, it's going to be equal to 2. We're not really looking when errors are coming into play. If they type 3, what happens? If they type a negative number, what happens? It's not really what we're doing right now. There is other things that we would do to fix that. So now that we have, our logic here, we have the 1, we know we want to, when they want to do the grade, we want to run this code here. So what we can do is can actually just highlight all this code. You can just come down here and highlight it all. And you can either push Control C if you're not comfortable and don't want to see it disappear. That'll copy it. You can come up here, copy it into place, and just tab in at least once. I'll kind of explain that, but you can copy it in. It'll be fine. Come down here and delete everything. Or if you're, you can just select it all and hit Control and X, which will cut it out. And then we come up here, we can just tab in by 1, push Control and V, which will now paste it in. And if you notice that like a lot of these lines are kind of in line with this if statement, it'd be good to indent. It's nice to indent because then it kind of signifies that this code that's indented is inside of this if statement. So if you notice, if I click this one piece of the block, it will actually highlight the closing block for me. And if you're too far up, and you give it the click, you'll see this little like I guess kind of like a square bracket created, and you can kind of follow that down now and it will show you where to go. All right, so we can just highlight this stuff right here. Oh, I'm way up now, right up to about here because this line's already good. We'll just tab that in. So now it kind of looks uniform. It looks good. It's kind of signifying that all this code is inside of this block here. All right. And it looks clean, and it's a lot easier to read than, having this all on this line here. It's really hard to kind of tell that we are actually, inside of this block of code. All right. So now we basically had finished the logic of what our program was supposed to do. Let's run this up. As you can see, this time we now have a menu. 1 is to get the grade, 2 is to exit. So now in this form, we'll just push 2 just to exit. And thank you for using the program. Now if we, just close it, there is no way to, continue this, right? There is a way to do it, but we're not there yet. We haven't I haven't really talked about those features. So for now, it's just going to be a very run each time type of program. We'll just run it again. We'll hit the 1 now to get our grade. As you can see, we kind of now move into this block of code, and we're now starting. We printed out this line, and we're going to come down and we're going to get the input from the user. So if the user says 55, now it's stored that number here, comes down into our if. Is it less than or equal to 127? That's false. Is the number greater than or equal to 100? That is also false. So we will not print this line. We'll come down here. Is a number greater than or equal to 90 and less than 100? That's false. So we won't come down here. We keep moving down the program until we kind of, same logic goes. Is it greater than or equal to 80 and less and, because it's and it's also less than 90? No, and the same thing goes until we find that line that the value is, right here. Is it greater than or equal to 50? We typed in there, 55. So it is definitely greater than or equal to 50, and it's less than 60. So we'll print out this. So now we get you're passing with a D, right? That's all good. And our program's kind of working, the way we should do it. So now this else if here, and if you're kind of struggling on what that is, and you're kind of lost on why we went with that when we have an else and an if, and you could have just, if you wanted to, you could write all these differently, and you could put the if statement inside. And you can now say if selection is equal to 2. Actually, did we name it selection? I gotta come up. No, we just named it select. So now if select is equal to 2, then we can print this chunk of code out, right? And this will be the same thing. It's no problem. We can do this. We can run this with the nested if inside of our else. And if you notice, if we do push 2, we do get the thanks for using the program. So that's all good. That works kind of good. And then now we also have a value that we can, add to this if inside. We can type else. We can just kind of give them the error. So we're, now kind of looking more at the error proofing of it. Instead of grade, we'll just say menu value is out of range. We'll click run. And if you see, we click 6, menu value is out of range. So now we kind of took over for the error proofing of this. So essentially this else if is kind of the same thing, but then once it gets going further and further down, so if now you wanted to, if there was a selection that was made and you wanted to go further with this, and you now put an if statement inside here and kept moving forward and said, if select is 3, now we can do another chunk of code and say you know, error again, we can put the error here, menu, out of value. You know, it's kind of the same. This now is the same logic as what we're doing up here. Okay, so that's kind of why Java gives you this else if. So you don't get all this really nested in coding that kind of can go on forever. Gets very hard to read when you get so far in, you know. So no, like at 4, maybe you want to write, again, you wouldn't be doing this, but you come back in further. We can now take this, stick it inside here. Now at 4, you're gonna, you know, it just gets very messy, very ugly looking as we're stepping into so many ifs along the way. And truthfully, we could rewrite all of this to step inward and do this nested style of programming, but it's very messy, gets very ugly quick. It's not at all something that you're gonna look to do. In some cases you do need nested ifs. There is certainly usages for having them. There's also usages for having multiple nested ifs. Like this, there's a time and place for it, but your logic really has to, you really have to have a logic down for that. And you're probably you'll see when you would use something like this, it's very rare. There is tools to keep you from doing this. So instead of getting this far into, you know, so many different if statements like this, it's easier just to rewrite this, you know, just get rid of that ugly code. It's just easier to write the, you know, now we'll just put it here and we'll say, you know, if select is equal to 2, now we can do this second set of code, which was, you know, just to say thanks for using the program, right? Because they're quitting. And then that kind of ties up our else again for a default value. If everything, you know, if they type anything, a 3, a 4, a 5, all that kind of stuff, we can then just give them that error. And I typically use my else's for errors when I can, for the most part, or like a kind of give the user that, you know, that something's going wrong. It depends again. It depends. Typically that's how I kind of flow with them when I can. Normally, you know, there might be a reason that you might need the else to do something different for you. For me, I've just noticed that that's the way it would work. So if I type 3, you can see now menu value is out of range. This is far easier to read than having, you know, those crazy nested versions there. So it's not, you know, and there's multiple ways to go about doing this as well. You know, if you just wanted to leave this else there, there's multiple different ways, but knowing how these work, using them properly, that's going to keep your code looking clean, nice and readable, easy to troubleshoot later. You're not, you know, it's all about efficiency when you're doing this, and you can get away with some pretty ugly stuff when you're programming. And just because you can doesn't always mean that it's the right way. I've seen some absolute horror stories when it comes to some people's way of logic, and it works. The program truly works and does output a result, but when it comes down to looking at it, giving it to somebody else to work with, when it, you know, if you're just looking to mess with somebody's head, then fine. But if you're working on a team and you start seeing like really weird triple nested loops to do, or nested ifs to do essentially what we can do here fairly simply, you know, if the logic's not sound, then you might want to rethink it, or, you know, relook it. This comes with knowing the language as well. But that's a very basic, you know, menu options, and also taking the value and doing something with it, right? So, you know, go with grade again, Our grade's now 85, and you're passing with an A. Kind of a decent little build program. Works. The one thing I do want you to be aware of as well, this is with a Boolean value. I'll just give you a quick rundown. I could probably make a different video, but we're so long into this one, I might as well just give you a quick pointer. So if you have select now is equal to true, this is a Boolean data type, which we talked about before. It only holds a true and a false. So we'll just say else, do this. All right, and so now if, oh yeah, I gotta go. Let's type b select, b underscore select, so then we know that it's the Boolean. Okay, so we'll just do a system.out. Say b Boolean select is true. If it is true, we'll just type that out, and we'll just go down here quick. Is false, right? So now it is false, and it should print out this is false if we've done this properly, and it will. The rest of the program's still going to want to run, but we're just going to ignore that for now. So we do see, Boolean select is false. I'm just going to hit the stop button here to kill the program. Now I want to show you if you miss something like this, okay, when working with the Boolean values, which an if statement, typically does work with Boolean values, and these these conditional operators, they end up resolving to, a Boolean value, as we talked in previous. If you're not sure about that, then there's a video, you should go watch that and check it out. And same as having, the Boolean operator here, this now ties these both together, that these both conditions have to be true in order for this to run true. All right, again, there's another video for that. You can go watch that if you need. But up here now, if we miss this one equal sign right here, and it is false, and remember when we ran it, it was false. If you miss this one and you hit the run button, it is going to give you a problem, and you're not seeing an error here. But if you notice, it's saying Boolean is true, but up here it's false. Okay, now just be aware of this, that this is wrong, because you're no longer is that a conditional operator to check, a comparison operator. You're not checking this is equal to true. You're actually taking true and you're putting it inside of here. So you're storing true in this statement. So essentially what you did was just type this, okay? So if you're having issues and you're seeing that, for some reason this is going on for you, and it does happen, that's essentially what you're doing, and it's always going to be true in that form, okay? So if you miss this, then it's a totally different statement. You won't see an error, whereas down here, if you were to do it with the 1 and you missed that, you do see an error, because all you're doing is actually storing 1 into select, and for an if statement, for it to actually, it has to take a comparison or an operator here. It has to result in a true or a false value, and that's what the comparison operator allows us to do. Is we take the select and we compare it to see if it is a 1. When the user gives you the value 1, select is now 1. It is in fact equal to 1. We can continue our code. So that's basically everything. There's a couple more little tips not to do with these, but for the most part, that's the if statement, the if else statement, nested if statement. a little trick not to get yourself caught up with. And I pretty much talked the if statement right out of the water here. So if you are still having issues with it, put it in the comment section below, and I'll try to address it for you maybe a different way, or we can look it over in another light. But hopefully not. Hopefully you're kind of getting what's going wrong with that. If you have any comments, questions, or any ideas for future, put in the comment section. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, all that fun stuff, and thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.